A moments ago quiet soundcheck turned into an absolute frenzy at the Stade de France's BTS kicked off day one of their highly anticipated Paris concert series. The atmosphere was already buzzing with excitement as a select group of lucky fans gathered early to watch the global superstars rehearse. Nobody in the audience, however, could have predicted the historic and deeply emotional interaction that was about to unfold right before their eyes. The 7 members of BTS were casually performing on stage, checking the audio levels and interacting playfully with the crowd as they usually do. Jimin was in the middle of delivering his flawless vocals, completely immersing the audience in the melody. The crowd was swaying along, mesmerized by the intimate setting that only a soundcheck can provide. Suddenly, the music seemed to lose its guiding voice as Jimin abruptly stopped, singing right in the middle of his verse. The sudden silence from his microphone caught everyone off guard, instantly shifting the energy in the stadium. It was a rare, unscripted moment that immediately drew the attention of everyone present. The other members of BTS looked over in sheer confusion, visibly startled by Jimin's sudden pause. They turned their heads toward him, wondering if there was a technical glitch with his monitor or if he had forgotten the lyrics. The brief moment of perplexity among the band members only heightened the curiosity of the watching crowd. However, Jimin's attention was not on the technical equipment or his fellow members at all. His eyes were locked onto a specific spot in the front row of the standing section, right against the barricade. He had spotted something in the crowd that completely captivated his attention and prompted him to halt the entire rehearsal. Standing there was a young Parisian woman whose dedication to the idol was written all over her outfit. She was wearing a custom, full-print t-shirt covered entirely in various photos of Jimin's face. The striking and passionate display of fandom was impossible to miss, even from the massive stadium stage. A warm smile broke across Jimin's face as he pointed directly at the lucky fan. Without hesitation, he began walking with purpose toward the very edge of the extended stage, leaving the rest of the group watching in amazement. He waved his hand, gesturing gently for the stunned woman to come forward and step onto the stage. Security personnel quickly assisted the shocked fan, guiding her up the steps and onto the main performance platform. The young woman walked up in a state of utter disbelief, her hands trembling as she realized she was sharing the same floor as her idol. The entire stadium held its breath as she approached the global superstar. What happened next will undoubtedly go down in BTS fandom history as one of the most envied moments of all time. As soon as the Parisian fan reached him, Jimin wrapped his arms around her in a warm, genuine embrace. To the absolute shock of everyone watching, he then leaned down and gently kissed the top of her head. The overwhelming wave of emotion was too much for the fortunate fan to bear in that magical moment. Tears of pure joy and disbelief began to stream down her face as she clung to the idol she had admired from afar. The sheer reality of experiencing direct physical contact with Jimin turned her dream into an unforgettable reality. Seeing her emotional reaction, Jimin showed his signature tenderness and deep care for his supporters. He gently pulled back from the hug and reached out with his hands to softly wipe away the tears from her cheeks. His comforting gesture showed a level of sweetness that moved the entire stadium to its core. The arena instantly erupted into a deafening roar of hysterical screams from thousands of onlookers. A massive wave of collective jealousy swept through the crowd as fans witnessed the incredibly rare intimacy of the encounter. The stadium was filled with a mix of awe, shock, and passionate cries from envious admirers who wished they were in her shoes. The other BTS members could only watch with wide eyes and amused smiles at the unprecedented event unfolding. On their stage, the spontaneous act of kindness completely disrupted the standard soundcheck schedule, but nobody cared about the delay. It was a testament to the unique and unpredictable bond between BTS and their global fan base. For the young woman from Paris, the world seemed to stand completely still for those few precious minutes. She stood on the grand stage, comforted by the very person whose music had touched her life across continents. The vivid memory of Jimin's embrace and kiss would surely remain etched in her heart forever. As she was eventually guided back to her spot in the crowd, The lucky fan looked visibly dazed by her sudden fortune. Her friends and fellow fans immediately surrounded her, offering a mix of congratulations and playful expressions of envy. She had suddenly become the most talked-about person in the entire international K-pop community. Videos of the incredible interaction began spreading across social media platforms like wildfire almost instantly. Fans worldwide who could not attend the Paris show were left reeling in shock at the footage of Jimin's grand gesture. The internet was flooded with expressions of amazement and widespread envy toward the mysterious Parisian girl. The historic soundcheck moment set an incredibly high bar for the rest of the evening's main concert performance. It established a deeply emotional and electric connection between the stage and the audience right from the start. The energy inside the Stade de France was completely unmatched, fueled by the lingering excitement of what had just happened. Music critics and fans alike often speak of Jimin's profound charisma and his innate ability to connect with people. This unscripted event perfectly illustrated why he is loved by millions around the globe for his genuine heart. He turned a routine technical rehearsal into a fairy tale moment that defied all expectations. As day one of the Paris concert officially commenced, the story of the full-print t-shirt fan was on everyone's lips. It served as a beautiful reminder of the magic that can happen at a live music event. The night continued with breathtaking performances, but the memory of that special hug remained the highlight for many. Ultimately, the opening day of BTS's Parisian tour will be remembered not just for the spectacular production, but for a singular act of love. One incredibly lucky fan walked into the stadium hoping just to see her favorite artist perform from a distance. Instead, she walked away having shared a warm embrace, a tender kiss, and an everlasting bond with Jimin. As the security guards gently guided the young Parisian woman past the metal barricades, her mind went completely blank, entirely consumed by a wave of shock. Every step she took toward the main stage felt heavier than the last, as if she were walking through a dream where gravity no longer functioned normally. Her legs shook so violently that she genuinely feared they might buckle beneath her at any moment. Clutching her chest with both hands, she tried desperately to steady her rapidly racing heartbeat, unable to believe that the space between her and her lifelong idol was rapidly shrinking. The moment her sneakers touched the smooth surface of the stage, she instinctively fell into a series of deep, respectful bows, her cultural reverence clashing beautifully with her sheer disbelief. She kept her eyes lowered at first, overwhelmed by the grand scale of the platform and the sudden proximity to absolute stardom. "Oh my God, this cannot be real. This is a dream," she continuously muttered under her breath in a mix of French and broken English, her voice trembling so much that it was barely a whisper. The grand stadium around her seemed to fade into a blur, leaving only the polished floor beneath her shaking feet. When she finally gathered the courage to look up and lock eyes with Jimin, a fresh wave of raw emotion hit her like a tidal wave. She froze in her tracks, her mouth slightly open as she gasped for air that suddenly felt too thin to breathe. Her hands remained pressed tightly against her sternum, a universal gesture of someone whose heart was overflowing with an unimaginable mix of joy, reverence, and fear. Seeing him standing just a few feet away, looking at her with nothing but pure warmth, made the entire reality of the moment crash down upon her all at once. As Jimin took the final steps to close the distance between them, the young woman could only manage a fragile, breathless sob, completely unable to contain the tears that began to well up in her eyes. Her hands shook uncontrollably as she covered her face for a brief second, trying to hide the sheer vulnerability of her overwhelming happiness. She stood before the global icon not as a distant face in a crowd of thousands, but as an individual completely bare in her admiration, entirely captivated by the surreal nature of the encounter. When Jimin's arms finally wrapped around her in a protective, comforting embrace, a soft, involuntary cry escaped her lips. She held on to him with a mix of absolute gentleness and fierce desperation, terrified that letting go would mean waking up from the most beautiful moment of her life. As she felt the gentle pressure of his lips against the top of her head, her entire body went momentarily rigid with shock before completely melting into the warmth of the embrace. letting the tears flow freely without any restraint, even as Jimin stepped back and reached out to gently wipe the tears from her wet cheeks. With his thumbs, she could only stare at him in wide-eyed wonder. Her lips parted in a silent expression of gratitude. Thank you so much," she stammered out, her voice cracking under the weight of her immense gratitude as she looked directly into his kind eyes. The tender touch of his hands on her face felt so incredibly grounding, yet it only magnified the beautiful casualty of a superstar treating a regular fan with the utmost dignity and affection. As the unforgettable encounter drew to a close and she was slowly escorted back toward the safety of the barricades, she kept turning her head back, offering final trembling bows to the stage. Her chest was still heaving from the intense emotional release, and her hand remained glued to her heart as if trying to physically hold on to the lingering warmth of Jimin's touch. She returned to her spot among the crowd looking completely transformed, carrying the profound emotional weight of a fairy tale that had miraculously come to life just for her.